What's going on, you guys? Kenny here, also known as Fan85. Welcome to another vlog. Um, I wanted to talk about something. I've talked about it before. Being bipolar. Um, I wanted to touch on this because I've been, I analyze my life, as a lot of people do. And even being diagnosed bipolar, I sometimes have to wonder, am I actually bipolar? And a lot of people would ask that too. Like, how do you know you're bipolar? How do you know that you have this disorder when you feel, or whenever I see you, or whenever I talk to you, you seem normal? Well, the truth is, there may be times where people will see people with bipolar at certain points and they feel normal, and it's because they feel strong enough to come out in public, or go to work, or talk to friends, or socialize. And that's a normal point, normal, quote unquote, and what really what really gives evidence to my disorder is the extremes, is the episodes. For a normie, for a person that doesn't really deal with mental disorders, um, it's hard to understand. So the way I tend to explain it to people is like, take your everyday moods, take your feelings of good, of sadness, of feeling empowered, of feeling defeated, and multiply those times 100. The feelings of good are turned into euphoric. Like, you can do anything. You can take on the whole damn world, and nothing can ever harm you. You can never do any wrong. You're all powerful. I mean, seriously, that's what it, at least for me, on my in my personal episodes, is I'm always right. I feel good that I'm always right. There's evidence that I can't do anything wrong. That's a bit of an extreme on the good. On the bad, you can just imagine. Um, well, that's what led to my suicidal episode, the really big one, that I had to get help and lock myself up for a few days, literally. Um, and that's just some examples. It's the moods that are magnified that affect your everyday life, that affect your relationships, that affect your friendships, that affect your family and friends, and everything in your life overall. That's what it comes down to, really, when you look at it. Uh, and so that's why it's tough if you don't know anything about it, if you don't live it yourself, if you've never seen through anybody's shoes. It's always hard to understand because mental evidence of a disability takes a little bit of imagination and a little bit of information to really see how it could affect somebody, because it's not a physical disability. It's not like I'm missing an arm, or I'm missing a leg, or I'm missing an eye. But there is something in the brain that is off. Um, or it's something temporary, because there are temporary disorders that, due to abuse, due to PTSD, due to, you know, whatever it might be, that causes somebody to mentally, temporarily, or lifelong, um, not process things normally mentally. So, but that's it is. You do question yourself sometimes. Am I really bipolar? Especially in those moments of nothing's wrong, nothing will ever happen, or I'm past all that. It's a bit of a gamble. It's a bit of a gamble, and I have to check myself sometimes and look at, like, when my last episode of hypersexuality was, or when my last manic episode was or when my last depressive episode was. How far have I come from that last episode to see if there's a chance that maybe I can lower my meds, maybe I can get off my meds. And that's where, the professional help comes in. Professionals can help you analyze that, and it's never a good idea to just drop your meds like that. Because for all intents and purposes, you're risking your life, you're risking potentially the lives of others, depending on how far you are along in getting help or not getting help. That's just the very real reality of it, And for example, if you drop your meds and you get into a very depressive episode, it's not going to matter that you weren't on your meds. Nothing matters. Nothing matters at all. Not the world, not your family, not your life, nothing. Nothing matters. It's nothing but darkness. That's all it is. There is nothing that could save you from what you want to do. But that's where outside sources come in. And hopefully can give you light in that darkness. Now, when it comes to the opposite end of the spectrum, on the good, it's very hard for people to convince you that if they know you, you're having an episode. Or it's very hard for people to convince you that you messed up. You messed up, even though you don't realize you messed up. And you're essentially, for lack of a better word, you're at a godlike mental status. I mean, you're like omnipotent. Like, nothing can go wrong. And it's crazy. It is so crazy. But there are key signs to look for. And I would encourage those that, if you're curious about it, there's plenty of conversations here on YouTube. There's plenty of YouTubers that have been diagnosed bipolar or borderline personality disorder or whatever it may be. Very real diagnoses that you can research and potentially even get some help with. So I would definitely recommend doing that. And this is just coming from one guy that was recently diagnosed bipolar in the last few years due to an event where somebody passed away, and it triggered, along with other factors that was going on in my life, it triggered my childhood trauma coming back up that I repressed. Living life from that point to when I was diagnosed on what I thought was normal, but I had intermittent mood swings. Even in my late teens, early 20s, I had thoughts of suicide. Not just curiosities, but thoughts. Even acting on them one time, and didn't go all the way, but had the circumstances right for me to potentially do something in front of a loved one. Again, extreme. And another part of it is, at least on my part, is intrusive thoughts. Intrusive thoughts are heavy. Intrusive thoughts are something that you can't stop. You just can't stop them. They're there, they latch on, and they can affect your life seriously. It affected my marriage, it affected my job, it affected me personally, it affected friendships. And I have to check myself sometimes to realize that you are who you are. And being you comes with certain circumstances that can be helped. But it takes wanting to get help. And unfortunately, the downside to mental difficulties is that with the right set of circumstances in your mind, you're not going to want to even think about getting help, or you don't even think about it at all because you don't think you need it. But yet on the outside, the atmosphere, the environment around you may be fostering that kind of negativity and maybe stopping you from actually getting help that you don't realize you need. It can be so freaking complicated, it's ridiculous, but that's the reality of mental difficulties. Um, we're still kind of coming into an era um, of just starting to understand it. Even in the last 30 to 40 years, there's still a large percentage of the population that disregards it, that remains willfully ignorant of it, because there's no visible evidence. Again, it's not like losing an arm or an eye. It's just all in here. Um, but that's, again, that's when I check myself and think, don't make a move like you've done in the past. And that's where experience kind of comes in. It says, you've been here before, you've had this thought before, look at the evidence and look at the timeline. Should you make this decision? That's a hard damn thing to do. That is really hard to do for yourself. It's easier for an outside person to say, hey, look, so on and so forth. But if there's nobody around, it can be scary. But that's how, that just goes to the evidence. Aside from like my medical history, my genetic makeup, which there is predispositions in a genetic line for potential mental disorders. I could get into family history and everything, but honestly, that's too much detail, and I'm not going to do that. But that is always a possibility. I will say that much. And there's probably a whole line of family histories that it went undiagnosed for the longest time. And certain families may not even realize it. They may not even want to hear about it. So, which is, again, how families can get. It's how individuals get. It's who they are. And, you can't really stop them from being who they want to be and believing what they want to believe. But for me personally, I accept it. I've learned that fighting it, that totally ignoring it, just empowers that darkness more and allows it to grab you, hold you, and not let go. Whew. This is a lot coming out, but it's something I wanted to touch on. That's something I wanted to vlog about. So there it is. Anyway, listen, thanks for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment. Remember, you're awesome. Never let the world tell you otherwise. See ya. And I hope maybe you found some information in this personal vlog of mine that might help you. I share this, I do this, so maybe it helps somebody to let people know they're not alone. And if you believe that there may be something mentally going on, don't be afraid to reach out to somebody, to talk to somebody, talk to a professional, do some research, and try to get it figured out. Because if you keep denying it, if you keep fighting it and saying that there's no way that could be me, you could potentially just make it worse, and your circumstances could become more dire. Just a bit of advice. Anyway, stay awesome. See you next time.